Today is Thursday, July 1st. What to know about new criminal charges against former President Trump's company, all over taxes. Also, Bill Cosby's sexual assault conviction was thrown out. We'll explain why a court let him walk free. Plus, Robinhood being forced to pay back some of its customers, a setback for Britney Spears in her conservatorship battle, and a new tribute to the late Princess Diana from her sons. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in about 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Lacey Evans, filling in for Erica Mandy during her maternity leave. You ready? Let's do this. Former President Trump's family business, the Trump Organization, is now formally facing criminal charges. Several news outlets like the Wall Street Journal and Washington Post cite sources who say a New York grand jury filed indictments yesterday. They reportedly charged the company and longtime chief financial officer Alan Weisselberg with some kind of tax-related crimes. As of early this morning, the charges are still sealed, so we can't see exactly what they are yet. But for a while now, investigators have been looking into whether Weisselberg and other employees have avoided paying taxes on perks they got from the company, like cars, apartments, and private school tuition. So far, there hasn't been an official comment from Weisselberg or the Trump Organization about the indictment. But in the past, former President Trump has called the investigations politically motivated. Weisselberg is expected to appear in court later today, and then we should know more. Bill Cosby is now a free man. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court threw out his sexual assault conviction, and with that, he was released from prison only 3 years into his sentence, which could have lasted as long as 10 years. Remember, he was found guilty of drugging and molesting Temple University employee Andrea Constand back in 2004. Dozens of other women have said he did the same to them. Here's the issue in this case, though. The main piece of evidence was Cosby's own testimony he gave as part of a civil lawsuit he settled with Constand years earlier. Cosby agreed to testify because a district attorney at the time promised he wouldn't be criminally charged on the accusations. Well, then, when a new DA came in a few years later, he said he wasn't bound by the promise of his predecessor, so he filed the charges. Cosby's attorneys took issue with that, and this week, the state's highest court agreed that the prosecutor should have never brought the charges, so the conviction can't stand. However, Constand and her lawyers called the ruling disappointing. They say they're worried it will discourage other sexual assault victims from coming forward against their attackers. Courts ruled on a couple of other high-profile sex crime cases involving actors this week. In one of them, Smallville actress Allison Mack was sentenced to 3 years in prison for her role in a cult-like group called NXIVM. It was run by a disgraced self-improvement guru named Keith Raniere, who was sentenced to life in prison last year. He apparently branded his victims, treated them as slaves, and sexually assaulted them for 15 years. Well, Allison Mack was a high-ranking member of that group who was charged as a conspirator. She helped Raniere recruit, extort, and enslave women. Mack has since apologized, saying getting tied up with Raniere was the, quote, biggest mistake and biggest regret of my life. Separately, actor James Franco settled a sexual misconduct lawsuit this week. 2 women who attended his now-closed acting school say they were sexually exploited. They took a class called Sex Scenes and paid extra for it. The aspiring actresses say they thought it would teach them how to negotiate sex scenes professionally. Instead, they say Franco intimidated them into getting naked and performing simulated sex acts, all while promising job opportunities that never came. Franco has said he's never mistreated anyone. However, he reportedly agreed to pay $2.2 million to settle the case. A court still needs to sign off. A new House committee will start investigating the January 6th Capitol invasion. The House approved it this week, mostly along party lines. All Democrats signed off, along with only 2 Republicans. The Democrats say they want this committee to find the truth and come up with recommendations to help prevent another riot in the future. However, most Republicans called it unnecessary, since law enforcement agencies are doing investigations anyway. They also accused the Democrats of just wanting to keep the riot in the news well into next year's midterm elections. Either way, it's happening, since this committee doesn't need the Senate's approval. It will be made up of 13 members of Congress. Democratic House Speaker Nancy Pelosi will get to choose most of them, but she says she will consult with the top House Republican, Kevin McCarthy, on at least 5 of them. Pelosi said she would have preferred a more bipartisan commission that wouldn't have included any sitting members of Congress. However, the Senate voted against that idea a month ago. As for this new committee, it won't have any deadline, so its investigation could be going on for a while. It seems America's effort to vaccinate the population against COVID-19 is entering a new phase, one in which the supply is outweighing the demand. So with that, hundreds of Rite Aid stores are ending their extended vaccine hours on Fridays. And all around the country, mass vaccination sites that were set up to give out thousands of shots a day are now shutting down. The good news is, though, now getting a COVID-19 shot is said to be easier than ever. They're available at most retail pharmacies, appointments are no longer required, and recipients aren't screened based on need anymore. In other words, anyone 12 and older can just walk in. As of this morning, more than 54% of the population is at least partially vaccinated. Much more news ahead, but first, your main host, Erica Mandy, explains why she loves our sponsor, Noom.
When trying to build new healthy habits, there's nothing better than combining accurate knowledge with smart accountability. And Noom offers both. Noom is based in psychology and teaches you why you make the choices you do, then gives you the tools, tracking, and community to replace your old habits with new, healthier ones. The kind of program that doesn't want to be a quick fix, but a long-term solution. In fact, more than 80% of Noomers finish the program. More than 60% have stuck with their goals for at least a year. Perhaps it's because with Noom, you pick the health goals that are right for you. And Noom personalizes a weight loss program to help your aspirations become reality. And Noom knows you're human, and going off track today just means you can get back on track tomorrow. We don't need any more strict rules or shaming in life, right? We want knowledge and a compassionate kind of accountability. So try Noom. Sign up for your trial today at Noom, Noom.com/newsworthy. Again, sign up for your trial at Noom, Noom.com/newsworthy. Noom.com/newsworthy.
Pop star Britney Spears just faced another setback in her conservatorship battle. A judge denied Britney's request to remove her father as her conservator. To recap, Britney's father, Jamie, has had control over her finances and other parts of her life since 2008. Originally, that arrangement was put in place because of concerns over Britney's mental health and alleged drug use. However, in court last week, Britney said she was being exploited and bullied by the conservatorship, and specifically by her father. She said she was overworked without any breaks, forcibly medicated with lithium, and kept from having more children. Well, Jamie says he didn't know anything about that stuff. There has also been a professional in charge of the singer's personal and medical decisions, and Jamie says he's been mostly there to take care of the finances. So now he says he wants a court to investigate Britney's allegations. There's another hearing in the case scheduled for later this month when Britney can again petition for the conservatorship to be ended. Stay tuned. Thousands of people who lost money on Robinhood are about to get some of it back. The stock trading app has been especially popular with first-time investors lately, but critics say the app encourages inexperienced customers to make risky bets. And this week, federal regulators agreed. So Robinhood reached a settlement with the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority. The company will pay about $57 million in fines, and more than $12.5 million will go to Robinhood customers. Regulators focused on three main issues in its report. One, that Robinhood didn't do enough to prevent system outages. The app went down several times between 2018 and 2020, causing customers to lose out on trades. Two, that Robinhood approved risky or unqualified trades that should never have been allowed. And three, that Robinhood frequently showed customers false information, like how much money they had in their accounts. Robinhood has not admitted to doing anything wrong, but it's promised to make changes. For example, the company says it has tripled its customer support staff, and it's putting more educational tools on the app. The workplace messaging platform Slack has a new tool to make it easier for coworkers to chat. It launched Slack Huddles this week. It's an audio tool that lets coworkers talk rather than text. The company says it's meant for more spontaneous conversations, though, like the kind colleagues would have at their desks in an office. Users can keep the huddle turned on as long as they want, and they can see who else is tuned in. There's no video with Huddles, but users can share their screens with each other. The feature also transcribes everything that's said in case someone doesn't have their audio turned up. Slack also plans to add a video messaging tool in the next few months. Today would have been the late Princess Diana's 60th birthday. To honor her legacy, her sons, Princes William and Harry, had a statue of her made. It will be unveiled today at Kensington Palace. That's where Diana lived when she was alive and where Prince William now lives with his wife Kate and their children. Today's unveiling ceremony will be small. As the BBC reports, the only family members who will be there are Prince William, Prince Harry, and Diana's siblings. The late princess was only 36 when she was killed in a car crash in 1997. Now, she is remembered for her openness as well as her charity work around the world. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is spending more than $2 billion over the next 5 years to fight for gender equality around the world. It's one of the largest pledges the Gates Foundation has ever made. Most of the money will go to organizations that provide health and family planning services. The rest of the money will go toward helping women get job training, making sure they have access to financial services, and supporting women as leaders. Melinda French Gates says progress for women has been slow and that she wants to, quote, reignite the movement to create real change. That's it for the main news today. So now it's time for Thing to Know Thursday. Today, we're talking about the meaning behind a major celebration in China. But first, here's Erica again with a message from our sponsor, BetterHelp.
When was the last time you thought about your mental health? I think it's so important to talk about because our mental health is just as important as our physical health. When anything, even temporarily, might be interfering with your happiness, why not address it? There may be even things you don't realize are getting in your way. So big or small, BetterHelp wants to help. BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist to help you figure out what's going on. And I love that you can message your therapist anytime. And of course, you can set up phone or video calls to really get the full benefit of BetterHelp. They have counselors who are specialized in stress, anxiety, grief, relationships, and much more. And if you're ever not happy with your counselor, just change counselors anytime until you find the right fit. And you always connect in a private online environment. I want you to start living a happier life today. And as a listener, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting betterhelp.com/newsworthy. That's BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, betterhelp.com/newsworthy.
Okay, now back to Thing to Know Thursday. China is celebrating the Communist Party's 100th birthday today. The party got started in 1921, and its leaders took control of China in 1949. Today, the party controls the country's parliament, the court system, and its law enforcement agencies. Today also marks 24 years since Hong Kong returned to Chinese control. And it was just over a year ago that Beijing imposed a strict national security law in Hong Kong. That law gives China more power to investigate, charge, and punish suspected criminals in Hong Kong, many of them just for opposing China's leadership. Now, the anniversary of the Communist Party is being publicized in Hong Kong, too. Meanwhile, in mainland China this morning, the party celebrated with a parade, complete with a 100-gun salute and thousands of performers. And China's communist president spoke, saying the party is essential to making the country a leader on the world stage. President Xi also warned that no other country would be able to bully the Chinese people. And that's your Thing to Know today. Thank you for tuning in today. We'll be back tomorrow with more news. Until then, have a great day.